Welcome back to another episode of Key Factors Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Jones, and we are powered by ReviewMyMortgage.com, the largest index of mortgage programs in the nation. And I wanted to give you guys a quick update on that. We are now surpassed 10,000 users nationally in the first 30 days, something I'm super proud of. And it just proves the concept that consumers out there like yourself are interested in knowing what you can possibly do mortgage-wise before you actually speak to a lender. So that being said, I want to get into a pretty cool episode that we have today. But before I introduce our guest, I want to make sure I introduce Matthew Stansberry.
How's it going, guys?
And then now let's go into our guest of the day. Our guest I met recently, pretty much just coming along with manufactured housing, and within the first 10 minutes fell in love with the dude. So without further ado, I want to introduce Peter. Peter, how's it going, man?
It's going good. Mark, how are you?
Doing very well. So
Good.
Our listeners have no clue who you are, where you came from. I've gotten to learn a great deal in a short period of time, and I want to share that with our listeners. So if you could just kind of take us, where you from, where you been, where you going?
Yeah, for sure, man. So thanks for having me on the podcast,
Absolutely.
man. I'm super excited about teaching people more about lending and how to become a homeowner.
Yeah.
I'm from College Station, Texas. I grew up there. My dad was a professor at A&M, so I am an Aggie, more so than most, because I actually grew up there.
True.
Growing up at A&M, I didn't really like A&M a whole lot in College Station because the Aggies, kind of clash with the locals. So I got out of there, traveled for the better part of 2 years, found myself working 3 jobs in Northern California as a ski bum. I worked for the National Park Service, and then I worked at a restaurant to get a free meal. Called my dad, said, "Dad, I want to go to college." And he laughed at me. He laughed, and he goes, "You, college?" I was a little bit of a rebellious, rambunctious kid back then. Probably still am.
Reminds me of myself.
Yeah, for sure, I bet. And just decided that I needed to get a degree in something, or at least find some sort of a track to get me in the right direction. So
Sure.
I loaded up sold one of my cars, loaded up my other one. I was living in a van, basically an old Blazer, working these jobs, climbing in Yosemite, just kind of living an outdoor lifestyle, and ended up trying to do community college. It's too expensive in California. So I drove back to school, went to Blendon A&M. Went to A&M for a year and a victory lap.
Okay.
Then ended up moving to Colorado, raced in the mountain bike world, worked in the cycling business for 4 or 5 years. Just always been an outdoors guy.
That's awesome.
Girlfriend at the time, now wife, told me, whenever you're done playing on your mountain bikes, we should move back to Texas. And kind of
Smart wife
coming
right
up on
there,
5
man.
years, like, what are we doing? So I kind of came to my senses and took the cue there that next year's 5 years and we better have a life together, not just fiddling around in the mountains. So we ended up moving back to town, and she worked for Hyatt for a long time. So she got promoted back to San Antonio, and I stumbled into the mobile home business here in San Antonio. But yeah, man, I graduated from A&M. I'm an Aggie. I'm an Eagle Scout. I love family. I got a beautiful wife and 2 beautiful children, 5 siblings. All about family, man.
That's
But
awesome.
that's a little bit about myself background-wise. But other than that, I work in the manufactured housing business here in San Antonio. I absolutely love it. And yeah, dude, I'm excited to teach people about homeownership and how to get going.
I love that. I love your enthusiasm. And mostly I love the passion that is just exuding through you, truly. And a lot of folks say that about me, but I love what I do. And it is helping folks, helping people accomplish their goals, their dreams, things that they never thought was possible, getting them on the stepping stones to next levels. So before we get into the manufacturing thing, manufacturing being sales, were you in sales before, like the bike world, all that good stuff? Because I can imagine those kind of bikes are not cheap.
I was, and I never really was clued into it.
Sure.
I worked for my first job was in a bike business.
Okay.
I was doing concrete ramps for the bike shop for spare bike parts.
Okay.
Just totally struck a deal with the owner, which would be sales.
Yeah.
Little did I know, I was 10 years old and like, hey, I'll pour this Quickcrete, make a ramp for your customers. I'll build you a bench, and I need handlebars and pegs for my BMX bike. He's like, sure, 8 years old.
Here
you go.
But I got back into that business, I guess when I was 19 years old, and started working at the bike shop, selling bikes, selling high-end bikes, learning how to upsell. and just learning how to connect with people. I remember distinctively all the other guys in the shop would get mad at me because I would yell across the shop to greet the customer. And they'd always say, why do you greet people so differently? And to me, it wasn't even really noticeable, but you'd get the college girl that's coming in to buy her bike for her freshman semester, or you'd get the country guy that's coming in who needs a tricycle with a gun holder on.
Sure. Yeah.
Dude, you can't greet those two people the same way.
You're exactly
right. You got to
right.
walk up to the young lady that's on her freshman year of college and say, hey, ma'am, how are you doing today? Let me show you our affordable bike. She's like, oh, my dad told me I should buy a bike. You're like, fantastic. Follow me. I'll get you a perfect bike, a rack, a lock. You're good. Then you get Billy Bob in there who needs a tricycle. Billy Bob, how are you today, brother? You talk to people differently. So I've always had a passion for connecting to people. But I really didn't get cued into sales and the sales world until I had a couple mentors lead me in the right direction.
You were just like doing a job at the time.
Yeah, natural.
And that was, I guess, what I was going to ask was, a lot of folks will ask me or ask Matt, how did you guys get good at sales? And it's not something that we just popped out of mama and all of a sudden we were like, here's this newspaper, I'm going to sell it to you. Yeah. It's just not what happened. It's trials and tribulations and learning from your experiences. But what you mentioned in the beginning was a form of mirroring a customer, essentially. You've got to bring it to their level to be able to relate. And I think as you move further with experience, you tend to relate to more people as you encounter more people. But back then, did you know you were mirroring? Did you know you were practicing sales techniques already, or you were just being you?
Not at all, man. I guess I was just being me. And, back in the day, it was fun to emulate others or, do the impressions and things like that. I mean, to me, that was a kick. It was a gas. I always did that kind of fun stuff. But two things that will really pay dividends to everybody, if you would grasp these two things in life, is you got to learn how to communicate with people. The more people you can communicate with and connect with, the more people you can have likability and earn their trust. If somebody's going to do business with you, become friends with you, develop any type of a relationship with you, one, they got to like you. Okay? Nobody goes to people that they don't like.
Exactly right.
And two, you got to trust that person. Yep. In order to develop that trust,
I mean, you're literally missing one item in that trifecta, which is know the person. Know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
And if they don't know you, you better find a way get them to like you.
Yep.
And to trust you right away until they know you.
Absolutely.
And I mean, did you read that somewhere? Where did that come from? Because I will tell you, and those listening know that I went to college, never graduated. It was one of those things that I got in an argument with a professor about life. You'll make more money because you have this piece of paper. And I was like, dude, I'm in the world right now. I've got a small business. I'm working at a bank. And I asked them if I'd get a raise if I finally finish this degree. And they said no. So real life, and here I am in the auditorium talking to the professor with all these students naive behind me, parents paying for their tuition and everything else. And I'm going, experience is what you kind of have to get across to these folks. But yeah, I mean, in your case scenario, I've educated for many years and I wasn't the best reader. So I listened. Once I got better at listening, then it was like, okay, give me more books to start reading, that kind of concept. And I'm the kind of person that I can't read something one time and go, oh, I've got it. I literally have to read it twice, sometimes 3 times for it to stick because I'm so ADD, ADHD. And I guess what I'm trying to say is I will make the sacrifice to do it 2 and 3 times because I know that about myself. With you, was it something that you were reading? Was it something that you were emulating in someone else that stuck? What was it? What can you attribute that to, Because they don't teach what you have in school.
Yeah, that's true.
Very true, man. Quite honestly, it's an attitude.
Yeah.
Your attitude is your most valuable asset, and you must safeguard it from the thief, not only on the street, but in your mind. You can really get bogged down with things that happen in your life, and your attitude, your ability to carry your positive attitude from day to day, from hour to hour, from minute to minute is completely taken over by this negativity, stuff that is on the news, or maybe a deal that's gone bad, or a sale that you missed, or gosh, it could be anything from a missed stoplight.
Correct.
People will allow themselves to be completely demoralized. It's the old saying, I can't remember who said it. I wish I could give the credit, but if somebody stole $1 from you, out of your bank account, would you throw away the other, and you had $1,000, would you throw away the other $999?
That's a good point.
No, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
Why would you let one conversation, one instance, one interaction ruin your day?
And it happens over and over. You are exactly on the money on that.
So the attitude piece is probably what got me there. I think I learned early on that, in every interaction you have with individuals, really every interaction you have, you get two options, man. I'm a simple guy. I'm ADD, ADHD, dyslexic.
Yep.
I mean, it's tough for me to get dressed in the morning without being distracted.
Yeah.
It's positive or negative. Let's break it down to really simple ideology. It's either a positive interaction or a negative interaction. That's it. Don't allow yourself to be fooled into thinking anything is a negative interaction.
Correct.
It's all positive.
And
right?
I'll even go more layman. Not only is it positive or negative, those are your two options, but it's always you that has the choice to choose either one. It's not what has happened to you. It's what are you going to do about it, in my opinion. And as the great movie once quoted, Remember the Titans, attitude reflects leadership, Captain. So that being said, was that something that, and I still want to get to that root, was there somebody in your life leadership wise, maybe your dad, somebody that you got to see that, because unless you go through quite a bit at a young age, you don't tend to get that concept, what you're talking about right now in its purest form, unless you see it from somewhere else. Was there someone, or you just, you know what? It's better than the opposite.
No, I don't, I can't answer that. That's a great question. I'm going to have to really
Soul search.
look into that. But my dad is one of my heroes. He's a very positive guy. Like I said, comes from a mountain of education, world success. He was a professor for A&M for 35 years.
Wow.
Just a very, very good mentor for me.
Sure.
Always a positive guy for me and in my life. No matter what he'd been through, no matter what was thrown his way, he was going to stop, think, calculate, and respond. So ADD, ADHD, that's not how we're doing this.
No, sir.
So I got one option. If I want to move forward fast, it's got to be positive and we're going to go.
That's right.
So, that was a little bit hard for my parents, but that was a big piece. And then I met a mentor when I got into the manufactured housing world who taught me how to slow down, be intentional, be disciplined, because discipline is really the key factor if you're going to be consistent in anything that's going to bring you success. You've got to be disciplined. And
you attribute that to your health. I know that you're a big health fanatic too, right?
You got to get okay. Nobody wants to wake up at 4:45 in the morning. Nobody. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stay in this nice cozy bed.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to get up.
That's right.
Wipe the sleep out of my eyes and go hit the gym.
Yeah.
Nobody really wants to do that. It takes an extreme amount of discipline, but the amount of effort and the amount of energy and the amount of wins you get back for putting 2 hours on the front of your day where you're taking your health first. Okay, that's caring for yourself, which is important to do.
Yeah.
Often you don't find time for that at the end of the day.
You get a leg up on the day.
Dude, you get a leg up on the day. You get to do what I call deep work in the morning when all of the noise hasn't even hit the street.
I agree with that. Yeah.
That's extremely important. And when you stack those little wins up over time, imagine that 10 years on somebody, you've got an hour every day in front of every other person. You can imagine how much more time I've put into my effort and into my craft than you. It's huge, right?
It's astronomically huge.
So there's all these great people who have tons of information out this. I'm a big Ed Milet fan, and there's a lot of good gold out there you can get into and figure out how to be disciplined on waking up and getting into it. But I attribute probably one of my mentors, the leader of our company right now, is extremely positive in attitude.
Yeah.
So he helps us keep a real positive attitude. But dude, it's an attitude, man. There's nothing that you can't accomplish if you never stop and just stay persistent and continue to pivot and keep moving in a positive direction.
So one last kind of question or concept before we move on to the next topic is the reason behind everybody's drive is different. There's the why that gives you the passion or the fire to go and do what you do every day. There's a reason why. It's not just like, I know I'm going to be better than everybody, so I'm going to get up early. No, I'm going to be better than everybody, and I have to get up early to do that, and I'm doing all of this because of this. Is that your family? Were you doing that prior to you had a family? I mean, you get where I'm going with that?
Absolutely. So my why's pretty simple, man. God put me here on this earth for one real simple reason. I'm here to bring
simple man.
I'm here to bring joy to the lives of every person that I interact with. And I have a duty for that to my family, my direct family, my wife, my kids. That's a big why.
Yeah.
Okay, but they're good. They're set up, and I'm going to make sure of that. Let's expand our circle of influence. Okay, who's next? Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe my cousins, my brothers and sisters, their family. So I'm always shooting them texts and emails and motivation and hey, thanks, and hey, I love yous and stuff like this. Okay, then my team, right? Mm-hmm. Great, got them going. What do my guys need? What are their goals?
Right.
Hey, Warren, one of my sales guys, what do you want?
Yeah.
Well, I want this, this, and this. Okay, great. That's my goal now. I've got to get him what he wants. If you get enough people what they want, it's going to flow back to you. So my mission statement has really been over the last 5 or 10 years, bring positivity to every person that you interact with.
I love that.
That's my goal, man. Yeah. That's my biggest why. My wife, of course, without her, man, I'd probably still be in the van in Colorado. She is everything to me. She keeps me focused, keeps me caring, keeps me out of trouble.
Kicks you out of bed at 4:30 in the morning.
Dude, absolutely. That's probably my biggest why, is to bring joy to the other people in my lives, whether that's the person at the coffee shop, or the gas station attendant, or somebody that comes in who's looking for a home. That's a big one. Or anybody that you interact with. Just ask yourself, how can I make this a positive interaction? How can I bring value to that person? How can I add to this person's day? I want that person to leave, and this is not selfish. I want that person to leave this interaction and go, man, I just had a great interaction.
And you know
who
what?
was that?
I'm going to go as far as to say, even if it is selfish, it has to start there, in my opinion, because a lot of folks will ask me, why did you get into the business that you're doing? Number one, money. That's why I started doing this. I'll be 100% honest with anybody that asks, and I achieved that.
Yeah.
But then at a certain point, you come in your career and you go, okay, I've got the money. I've kind of got the needle moving activities down. I've gotten the concept of consistency and getting myself back on track, getting my goals in line. That's the me factor. But then you look up one day and you go, okay, this isn't enough. I'm not being fulfilled. And it begins this shift of, I'm now working for something bigger than myself. And I can see it when you talk, when you were there with your sales guys, it's the same concept. And we align with that in what we do here, in the sense that I get super gratified in seeing them win. I get super gratified in, example, Javier behind the scenes, we will debate about a topic in particular, and then fast forward 2 months later, and he comes back and he's like, hey, that was a nice paycheck. I kind of get where you were coming from when you were trying to educate me on that. But it's cool to be able to then take that a step further to say, hey, that's just the beginning. You wait until it's like, now I've got some money in the bank. What do I do with it? Type situation. I'm not going to buy rims. I'm going to go put it over here, and 2 years later, see that money grow. And those are the little tangible things that we as leaders kind of come in contact with, but it all starts with that original why. So great topics right there. I mean, geez, we came out of the gates swinging.
I wanted to know, like, what had you like stumble into manufactured home business? Just because I feel like I stumbled into the mortgage business, and I'm like, I'm here. I love doing this.
If you don't mind, some of the listeners have never gotten to hear your story, how you got in the business and where you came from, so to speak. And this resonates heavy because of your background. I mean, we're talking manufactured housing right here.
I grew up in a manufactured home. Even at some point lived in a like 16-foot RV for years, and then we leveled up to the manufactured home. So I didn't come from money or anything. I think coming into college, I was an assistant manager at an apartment complex. So I wasn't really doing any sales at that time, and so happened that I connected with somebody, and she got me in front of an insurance agent. She's like, hey, this guy needs some extra help, needs to get leads. You want to come make some extra money? I'm like, yeah, sure. So they paid me per lead. And I, at the time thought of like, all right, where can I go get more business? And I need to get in front of as many people as possible. And I got bonus and tiered. So I set up at Traders Village and did awesome. And the guy's like, hey, you're actually really good at talking to people. And I'm like, dude,
and really good looking.
You're giving me something that people need. It's not really sales at this point. I'm just like, hey, you need this? Here you go. But I kind of stumbled into insurance, met a mentor at the time, and I became the number one insurance agent in the state of Texas for Allstate when I was 21. Moved up and got to a point where I was hitting a cap, and they're like, okay, at this, you're already met your cap for the year. And I was in October, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do for the next 2 months? Just sit on my hands?
Not very motivating. We're like, hey, I'm like, keep going full gas, but we're not going to pay you anymore.
Yeah. And it was just like, okay. So at that point, the mentor that I was with at the time is like, hey, you've already met your cap year. I think you do phenomenal in mortgage. And I'm like, I don't know anything about that. I don't even have a house myself. And sure enough, went into it. I took a step back on income to learn for like about 2 years, and then got my license. And from there it was takeoff, and got connected with Mark, first year in the business, crushed it, and then been moving up and scaling up since then.
Yeah. I mean, 3 houses later that still owns and living in, I mean, come on, you can toot a little bit. It's okay.
First, after that became like a top producer, been crushing it. But I feel like whenever I came into it, I didn't really realize I was good at sales up until I started, once I got the insurance thing down, I'm like, oh, this is easy. Mm-hmm. But once I got into mortgage, I found my why in helping people. I never thought of it like, all right, I'm in sales, I'm going to go make money off of these people. I had a reason to help people, which I feel like in turn, I got my dues, right? Mm-hmm. I paid my dues, and in return, I made some money for it.
Yeah. So back to the question that you asked. I'm sorry.
So how did you? Yes, I feel like stumbling in.
It's kind of a funny story, man. So we're in Colorado. I had a great job racing bikes and having fun working in a warehouse in the cycling business. But cycling business, you're making $20,000. Mm-hmm. If you're
good
a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're having
for the
fun,
perks.
but you're there for the perks. You're there for the free bikes and stuff.
And you get a free meal too.
Occasionally you get a free meal, pizza Wednesdays, all that stuff. Anyways, I was kind of going into my manager's office and told him, hey, listen, I did this, this, and this. I told him exactly what I laid out for the year. And I said, I think it's time we reevaluate my pay. Mm-hmm. I did X, Y, and Z, and here's what I think I'm worth. And he was like, well, you're a valued employee. And he kind of gave me some spiel about you're already at a pretty high pay. We're going to give you a 50-cent raise hourly. And no joke, in that meeting I went, I quit. And he was like, huh? I said, I'm done. Yeah. I'm done, brother. I'm out. I'd like to put my 2 weeks in today, and I'd like you to cash in my 2-week vacation. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, will you come tomorrow? And I said, yeah, I'll come tomorrow and help the transition out or whatever. But I left. I went home that night, and I told my wife, I said, hey, I quit, and we're moving. She's like, really? I'm like, yeah.
Got your wish.
Back to Texas. So she's like, okay, great. She got online, applied for a job, and they basically promoted her to San Antonio.
Yeah.
So I called my brother-in-law. I said, hey, we're moving to San Antonio. He lives here. Dude's been in sales, does AC still, stuff like that. But okay. I said, hey, you know anybody? I'm going to start applying for jobs. He goes, well, my buddy sells mobile homes. You want to get into that? And I'm like, mobile home? Nah, man. Bike shop. Come on, man. I want to get into a fun deal. He's like, well, you ought to go meet with him. I'll let him know. Maybe you can meet with him. Fast forward about a month and a half. We're here in San Antonio, staying at the Hyatt. And I'm on a bike ride with my brother-in-law and his father, who he was a financial, like a wealth management guy. And we're riding bikes or whatever. And I'm telling him I'm going to get a job at a bike shop and all this. He goes, yeah, and he's just riding his bike. He says, riding bikes is really fun and all that. But, making $150,000 a year is a lot funner. And I'm like, yeah.
He hit you with the reality.
And he kind of mentioned, he goes, oh, Wes told me you were going to go and meet Phil. And I said, yeah, but might as well. And he said, oh boy, I take care of his financials, and it's incredible. And I was like, bing, light bulb. Maybe I need to go meet this guy. So I went and met Phil, and I walk in. This is a funny story, man. I walk in to meet Phil, and I'm wearing like jeans and maybe a collared shirt. Probably not. I don't know. And I walk in. It's like 9:15. I'm walking into the trailer lot, and I'm looking around. And I'm here to see Phil. And he walks out. He's tight, nice shirt. He walks out, and he looks me up and down like this. He goes, in that? And I was like, And he goes, go put a suit on. I'll see you tomorrow at 8:30. So I left, went back, said, Lizzie, I got to go buy a suit. I didn't have a suit. I'm a bike guy. Yeah. So I went to Men's Warehouse. Don't worry, you like how you look. And I got myself a nice gray suit and a button-down white shirt. And I, sure enough, came back at 8:30 in the morning, met with this guy. We hit it off. Sends me out to meet the VP. I met with the VP and did my best. I get to the Starbucks and I'm like, how am I, okay, I know what he looks like. I've researched him. How am I going to impress this guy? I really want this job. So I got a coffee with cream and sugar and a black coffee and I set him right there. He pulls up in his Mercedes, AMG. And I'm like, dang, these guys make money.
But he parks in the back so the people in the front don't know.
Yeah. And he comes right and he's on the phone. He comes right in, he looks at me, he goes, you must be Peter. I said, yes, sir. Nice to meet you, sir. And he goes, let me grab a drink. I said, I got black and I got cream. Which one do you want? And he looked down and he went, dang. Sat right down. I said, let's get to it. I know your time's valuable. And after that, I left. And I think Phil called me not long ago. He goes, hey, man, he liked you, but I don't like you. I'm not going to offer you the job. And I was like, dang. And he goes, you're just a square peg in a round hole, man. It's just not going to work. And I was like, well, sir, I'd like to give it a shot. If you give me an opportunity, I'll learn from you. And I think you'll be happy with the result. He goes, well, I don't know, man. You're just not my cup of tea. I mean, he's making me sell him on it. And so I said to him, you know what, dude? I'm going to be there Monday, and I want you to think about it over the weekend, but I'm going to be there Monday, and if you give me the opportunity, I will not look up for a year. And he kind of waited, and he was like, all right, dude, you're a referral. I'll bring you in. I'll see you Monday at 8 a.m. Dress sharp. And I was like, yes, sir. And that's kind of how I got into it.
Now, do you know what Phil was doing at that point in time?
No.
To you? I'm sure you do at this point.
Oh, yeah. For nowadays, I do that to individuals when I'm trying to get the interviews and stuff. But at the time, no, the pressure was on.
I was like, this guy's being a dick.
You're like, what's going on here? Like,
I thought I was
did this. It's a referral. The guy likes me. What's going on? He was testing a little bit of my ability and grit and resilience and like what's the response and what's this guy's mental state and is this guy going to pan out through what we call hills and valleys in our business? If he takes rejection, what's his response?
Correct.
And man, we were close buddies.
That test real quick. It was just one of those things that no is not a response that you're satisfied with.
No is spelled K-N-O-W.
I love that. And I guess question or concept for a brief moment, being where you were, you'd only had limited experience in the workforce, but it was semi-sales, wasn't extravagant sales or nothing with a big profit margin or anything like that.
Yeah. But
were you quickly enlightened to what the difference between a boss and a leader/mentor is?
180 degrees. Mm-hmm. The company that I left was a boss.
Yep.
He oppressed, not in a bad way, but he kept people down to the point where they wanted to leave. Mm-hmm. He wasn't anybody that would bring others up
with you. Yep.
And one of the first things I learned from Phil, my mentor back when I started the mobile home business, was he told people, I want to work for you one day. Do you have the ability and the capacity to learn and become a leader of me?
Yeah.
And that was a challenge to individuals.
That's brilliantly put, and that is something spoken from a true leader.
Absolutely. And it's crazy when you look at people who are a boss mm-hmm. and then individuals who, what I call, leading from the line.
Correct.
I'm not going to ask you to do it if I don't do it myself first.
Absolutely.
Or show you exactly how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
then been through it.
Yeah, or been through it and train you how to do it. So that's kind of how I got into the business, and I've been doing it for coming up on 7 years, and I love it, man. It's great.
Well, let's get into that part because I can talk all day about these concepts. This is the stuff that I'm passionate about, and like I tell folks, this is way cheaper than therapy. Okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But as we jump into it, I mean, your first year in the business, what was it like? I mean, obviously, a lot of folks don't understand the difference between a manufactured home being brand new, manufactured home already being out there. You were selling directly from the factory day one.
Yep.
What was it like? Total culture shock, I would imagine. Total shock in what you were used to, coming from surfer boy, bike slinger to, all right, now I've got to show up on time, be the best I can be, and follow up with these customers, build a pipeline, all of these different things. What was that like?
Different than I thought it would be.
Sure.
You hear about it and you think, oh, cool, interesting. I'm going to go get in this. But of course, like most things in life, it's very different than you think.
Yeah.
Not bad in a bad way, but it's very different. So you get used to the grind.
Yeah.
You get used to, for a guy like me, it was just getting organized, learning the financial world, which is, y'all's expertise. I had no background in loans, conditions, DTI, mortgage rates, all that kind of stuff was all new to me. But I knew the guy that I wanted to follow, and I did have a great training program on our selling system, which is awesome. But as far as the manufactured world, for us, it works real simply, almost like a RV dealership, car dealership, kind of combined with home ownership, or maybe more closely related, one of these communities that you walk into, you look at the model home, and then pick your lot and build, but much faster paced. Sure. We serve and provide an affordable housing opportunity. So the clientele that we work with, dude, it's 90% of people. Most people rent. You're exactly right. That's a huge group of people that are financed at 100%. They've got no ownership at the end of the line. So what we provide is a service that gives people the opportunity to own a home that may never get the opportunity to own a home. So that was a light bulb to me, and it just screamed, there's a need. Tons of people have a big problem, and we've got a selling system and a product and a company designed to provide that opportunity. So I grabbed hold of it real fast and used a little bit of my, I think, natural ability to connect with people. Sure. So I was connecting with a bunch of people. And for us, it's from an office set, it's all about getting those customers in front of you. You deal with people who really don't know whether or not they can get approved. Correct. They may have challenging credit. They may have just started a job. They may have no money down, but they're excited because they got a job. Maybe they've got some family land. They want to see about owning a house. So I took it upon myself, and it's kind of a company motto, but we're really a liaison. We want to teach these people how to own a home. So if you come in and you can't buy a house today, that's no problem. You took the first step. Here's what we need to do to get X, Y, and Z in line. We'll see you in 3 months. Check in with me. Here's my number.
It's funny you say that.
Because you want to move to the mortgage industry on this side?
Dude, I already tried. He's a great guy. And all of the things that you're talking about align perfectly with our motto, and it's been my motto for many years, is everyone's a homeowner. It's just a matter of when. Our goal is to show you how. So if it's not today, we're going to set the expectations on what you need to do so that you can find out when that date is going to be set for yourself. And it's cool seeing that, I guess, ripple effect happening in other sectors of the business that I'm in. And I will be honest, we've never heavily focused on manufactured housing more than we are currently doing at the moment, because it was never really a place in my mind that people would flock to, but there's always been a niche for it. Just like you said, 90% of consumers are renting right now. So you're better off getting some stake in land and a home. And that's the entry point to getting that done.
Yeah. And there's, Mark, you bring up a good point. There's a stigma associated with manufactured housing. Absolutely. And it's not, it's no big secret. I call it Grandpa's old single wide. When people come in and they think of 6.5 foot ceilings or, houses that are built with
you're right,
poor insulation or whatever. Yeah. Dude, it is not that animal. If you've ever been in one nowadays, you'll know that they're built to the rigorous codes. You get the smaller ones, they're IRC code. You get HUD code now. We build modular houses. Sure. A modular home is built above site-built standards because it's built in a controlled environment. So the stigma that comes along with manufactured housing really has to do with a bunch of stuff back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s when they weren't regulating how the home was set up. There's moisture under the home. They weren't properly maintained. Dude, if you don't change your oil in your car, you can't get mad and say, I'm never driving a car. They always go bad. Right. No, you just got to maintain it right. So we're as mortgage rates increase, it's just a fact of reality. And let me tell you, when my parents bought their home in the late 80s, early 80s, they were getting 16% mortgage. I mean, when people see an 8.5, 7.5, 8, 9% rate, that's not terrible.
Can attest to this, actually, is I just helped my mom pay off her house, manufactured home.
Yeah.
And I went and looked at the bill, and I'm like, Mom, you were paying 17% for how many years? I'm like, wow.
But you only know what you know. And that for a large demographic, and I believe that demographic's always been there. And also believe that as rates continue to do what they're doing, as home values continue to do what they're doing, that sector is actually going to grow.
Yeah. And thinking about it, like let's just say affordability with a manufactured home, right? Compare that $180,000 manufactured home, pairing it with the land, you're at $200,000. What's a $200,000 house look like right now?
Well, you can see them all the time on San Antonio investor websites.
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
dilapidated.
That's
The
right.
sheetrock's rotted out.
Yep.
It's got old, copper piping in there. I mean, what it is a rehabilitation project.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's probably a health hazard.
And these manufactured homes just blow it out the water. They're nice nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing in our world, and this is probably across the industry, is an increased clientele. We serve all clienteles, but nowadays you get people that have really been priced out of that $250,000, $300,000 price point.
That's the demographic I'm talking about.
Because of the rates, because of what's required by some of these lenders nowadays. The credit underlays are getting a little bit more specific and a little bit more rigorous with a lot of these mortgage companies. When you jump down into the manufactured world and you see that the people buy from us for two reasons. We're faster, we're more affordable.
Right.
Okay?
Absolutely.
If you haven't been paying attention, I don't pay much attention to this. Sorry.
Never
I
cost
use
too
paper,
much.
I use paper
Never
and
cost
pen.
too much to pay attention.
I use paper and pen. The technological age that we're living in, people want things fast. Really fast. I don't know if you guys have built a home in the last year or two, but it's been a painstaking process for people building a house.
Absolutely.
You're talking about a year with
year.
no locked pricing.
That's correct.
That means you have to redo a loan at the end of your...
That's exactly right.
It's frustrating for buyers.
Yeah.
I know that because we're on the front line talking to them. We provide a product and a service to a large, growing group of people to do land home packages. We do VA loans, FHA loans, USDA loans. We do zero down conventional loans.
Yep.
There's all kinds of products from these lenders that are kind of tailored to people that want and need to own a home.
That's right.
But otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to do so.
Correct. And more times than not, these are folks that probably make more than what they can prove on paper. These are folks that have not been educated on the credit situation. They're also more times than not the first of their generation to be buying a home. And that manufactured home being the ticket, the gateway into what I love to talk about, which is equity. I don't talk about it the way that the woke media talks about it. I'm being 100% honest. And that concept now resonates for generations and generations. And if they've got the land now, well, a lot of times they leave that manufactured home and they build when they're ready to build on their land. So it's like they're a leg up on everybody else because other first-time home buyers see the stigma that you're talking about that is associated with it, and they go and buy a home that's in a neighborhood, not even a quarter of an acre, and my dream is to buy land and to build my home. Well, if you look at it, most folks that build or buy a manufactured home new construction, they already got the land, or if they don't, they've got to put it on land. What is your average plot of land that you guys are putting these things on? Estimate. I'm not going to quote you on it, but just kind of
Probably that's a good question. Probably half acre to an acre.
Okay. Yeah. So the modular home, mobile home, manufactured home, whichever one you want to put on it, guarantee you it's not an acre wide.
No. That can't be larger than 76 feet by the
go.
code in Texas on the highways. So, the larger ones are 32 by 76. You can get into triple wides, which are about 42 by 76, 3,000 square foot house.
Fancy.
Oh, dude, those are some nice houses. They're beautiful. But what you said is absolutely spot on. A lot of these folks want a bigger piece of property. They're being completely pushed out of the market if you're considering a larger property, 2.5, 5, 10 acres, and then a building.
Yeah.
I mean, we do them. Don't get me wrong. We get the occasional customer that wants to go modular. They're doing $700,000, $800,000 loans. But if you were to go build a 2,500 square foot home on that 10 or 20, 30 acres, dude, you're over $1 million.
Absolutely.
You're over $1 million.
Exactly.
You've
right.
got to get a jumbo loan. You've got to get multiple mortgages. We have a product that satisfies that. And whether that customer is doing a temporary loan, which we have products that you can do, a larger land loan, and then a single wide where you're doing, an $80,000 home. That's not a typical mortgage.
Right.
That's considered a land loan, which is a completely different term. We have a product where that loan is built as a primary residence.
Correct.
And that's for somebody who wants to buy big acres, put a what I call a for now house.
Okay.
And then, a couple years down the road, build their dream home.
Absolutely.
We're seeing a lot of those customers, man.
And I want to get into the nitty gritty of manufactured housing, maybe put some myths to bed. And those that will tune into this episode are probably going to listen to it in their car with nobody else because they don't want anybody to know that they really wanted to know some of this information. And that's okay too. But there's so many things that, like, for example, essentials. What would be some of the essentials when going to purchase a manufactured home? Does the land need to have well, septic, or is there something that you guys have already created that's not necessary? I don't know.
Sure,
Speak to me like an infant on this kind of stuff.
That's a great question. The way these projects are structured, these purchases are structured, there's really three parts to the loan. There's the home, got to have the home that you love. There's the land, which either you bring it or we can provide, properties that are either in communities that allow for homes, things like that. And then there's the land improvements,
sure,
which can be either a large section or a small section. If you do an agency or a government-backed loan, that loan has to be to that quality, or I should say to that standard. Yes, sir. Thank you. So, you're talking about a concrete runner foundation. The skirting's got to be done. The decks have to be FHA qualified. There has to be a driveway, culverts, you name it. You name it, they got to have it, which is great. That's a turnkey package. Some of these products, we can put the pad in the house. If your brother owns a construction company and you're like, hey, I got everything. I need the home, the land. Oh, by the way, can you drop the electric for me? I'm going to do everything else. That's great. We can do that. So they allow a tailored construction project, which can sometimes be done in the site-built world. But when you get into site-built stuff, most of these builders are pretty turnkey. They're not going to let anybody else handle anything because of liability. The product under the finance world for manufactured housing allows for a breadth of completion on the projects, which is cool.
Absolutely.
For people that have a price point. Again, we're dealing with a I don't even want to say subset, a majority of home buyers that fit a budget. Absolutely. And in order to fit that budget, sometimes you got to get creative with the financing. And we do that. We do that very well, and I think it gives more opportunities for home buyers, which just solves more problems. The more people you can take care of, yeah, man, the more need is out there, the more problems that you can solve, the more is going to flow back to you. And again, that kind of goes back to my why, man. If I can figure out how to solve your problem, at the end of the day, you're going to figure out how to solve mine.
And that being said, are you guys seeing an issue with land continuing to rise and the home value not coming in line with the land? And it used to be an issue that the land couldn't be more valuable than the home. They've obviously adapted to what is happening in our world these days, and I'm glad they did, because there's some land out there that is pretty valuable. It's all about location at the end of the day, but as long as there are comps to provide, then it makes sense.
Like putting a $100,000 manufactured home on a $700,000 piece of land was not doable.
Correct. Matter of fact, you had that happen recently to where it was, I don't know, X amount of acreage, and they wanted to put the home on it, and it's like,
Bob was like, I just want land. You're gonna throw that manufactured house on it.
Hey, man, and there's a question I have with customers. I say, guys, what's more important, the home or the property?
Yeah.
And 50% of the time, it's the dirt. They want to be in this area for family, or they want to be here. So there's absolutely products for it. As far as the value, it kind of goes back to that stigma. They go up in value if the property goes up in value.
And you
right now
not see any more land being built. It's not possible.
No. Land is so far, at least to the best of my knowledge in Texas, we're not building any more land. But you see the values coming in at appraisal, if not more. Yeah. But again, the financing has great programs. One of the lenders I work with will allow for 110% valuation.
Okay.
On the appraised tax value of the property, which some people might say, well, that's crazy. But at the end of the day, remember what we're doing. We're trying to take somebody who's at 100% renting an apartment where they don't want to be in an unsafe neighborhood and get them out into what is their dream home. So sometimes you have to adjust the financing to do so. If they're doing a zero down loan and you're adding closing costs onto it, you have to hit an appraised value that's higher than the package of the land, home, and improvements. So they get creative with the financing. I think that the stigma that manufactured homes really grew up with, it should be going by the wayside. It's a thing of the past, man. The houses that are on ground now, you would be blown away. I think I showed you a couple of them, or at least when we were on the lot. So we're working through it, and it's all an appraised value thing. One thing I'll tell you is if it's on a concrete rudder foundation, it's a modular home, the appraisal is actually pulled against comps that are site built.
Okay.
So
makes sense. I mean, that
it's
makes
a
logical
modular
sense.
home. So they would be looking at, your neighbor's stick and brick house, and they would say, hey, this house is worth $700,000. Yeah, your $400,000 loan is appraised at $550,000. The customer's like, boom! I'm coming into this with $100,000 equity. I'm in.
And I think that goes to the concept of, and this may be a myth buster situation or just something that we enlighten folks on. They compare the mobile home or the manufactured home to an auto loan or a vehicle, whereas the vehicle, you drive it off the lot, we all know it loses value day one instantly, unless it's a classic and very rare, and that's happening less and less these days just because there's so much competition. But the modular home, the manufactured home, we've actually seen increase over time in value, in addition to the land that's also increasing in value. So it makes sense as to why somebody would create a product that they can go 110% of the value.
Absolutely.
When you've got vehicles that they'll go 140% of the value.
Yep.
I mean, and that's just a lose situation. Whereas this one, that's a pretty safe bet.
I've seen customers a lot this year that call us up. They want to, they bought a house from us a couple of years ago. They want to come back in and trade in and upgrade. And I say, great, let me see what I can give you for your trade in. And, it's kind of a benefit to them, but I have to turn them away. And I'm like, hey man, your house is appraised at this much. I can't buy it from you. I'd be losing money on it.
That's right.
I can actually get one from the manufacturer for a little cheaper than what I can buy yours for. I'm sorry. You're going to have to put it on the market. Go ahead and make 30, 40 grand.
Correct.
Come back to me and we'll make a deal.
That's right.
And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah.
Go make some money.
And I can attest for years, let's say the first, 6 years I was in the industry, that was something that we were almost coached to say to the borrower, which is, if you go manufactured home, those don't hold their value as well. And it was really a steering tactic that I didn't even get at the time, because people above me didn't know how to do manufactured homes, or they didn't want to deal with, does it have the tags, or all of those different little nuances that are there to help make sure that home is correct for the borrower, all that jazz. But it's like, there's a hurdle. Let's find a way to just go away from it instead of getting over that hurdle and teaching how this relays to a consumer.
I think me coming into the business, it was 3-4 years
ish
after?
Yeah.
3 years after. Me coming up from the mobile, living in a manufactured home.
right.
My dad was actually in the manufactured home business. He would sell manufactured homes. He would haul them, set them, and I'd go with them. We set up manufactured homes and level them and all the whole
and
nine.
Then what would he do?
And sometimes we'd have to go repo those things, which that's not fun.
Matt, if you want to come down for an interview, man, I think we've got an opening.
Boom! Look how the turns have tabled.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. No, so you've got a really good insight into it.
And that's why me coming into the business, one of my biggest things that I would go is I'm all about helping people get a leg up, right? Just because I knew that whenever I was coming up, I didn't really have much help. And I knew if I could help somebody a little get into a home or build that equity, it was a plus. So my thought process coming into the business, nobody does manufactured homes, I'm going to do them. And I figured out how to do them. I would do manufactured homes. I wouldn't turn them away. Figured out the, TDHCA, all that, get the social, the serial numbers, all that.
Yep.
And then I would always try to find a way man, why can't I go to these manufactured home places and do business directly with them? Because I know how to do it. And then it wasn't until we came here that it's hey, we have a product that actually works for this. And I'm like, boom, let's go.
That's right.
Oh, man, that's
cool.
Right. Well, I commend you for that. It's a path of least resistance mentality. It's people wanting to go the easy route. And unfortunately, when business is great, people go the easy route. And in the mortgage business, at least here in Texas, probably all across the United States, business has been great for a number of years. Business has been really good. So what happens when business is really good, it creates a path of least resistance, which gets just overtread. and you get people that go the easy route. So you create weak salespeople.
That's right.
or weak employees or people that, God dang, man, they're just lazy.
They're lazy. That's right.
And,
And I think lazy is being tolerated way too much these days. So I mean, are we done with the manufacturer talk?
If you haven't learned, or if you have a bad idea or a stigma against manufactured housing, let me just tell you guys, it's going to be a big part of the future for mortgages, at least in Texas and probably all across the United States, because it's an affordable option for the largest segment of people in the United States.
I tell you what, let's do this so that we can sum up this segment of that before we lead into our last and final kind of discussion. If you could walk us through, because along with the stigma, it leads to the fear of somebody even taking that first step in moving forward. So if you could just take us through what it would look like as a consumer walking into a sales office and now I'm getting the keys to my home. What does that process look
You see this guy, man? He just smile at you. It's like, yep, I'm buying.
like? That's what I'm saying.
So I just so you guys know, I'm not going to beat my chest on my company, but I work for a company called Titan Factory Direct. We sell champion houses. It's the best built house in the manufactured housing industry. The company itself has 42 actual manufacturing plants all across the United States. We're all over. We have them as far as California. We have them up in Maine. They're all over the Midwest. They're huge. We have 5 facilities in Texas. When you walk into a Titan Factory Direct, you get greeted at the door. Hopefully you've contacted and set up an appointment so you know who you're speaking with, but we take walk-ins, and every place should take walk-ins. You come in, you'll meet a sales associate, you'll sit down in the office, you'll chit-chat for a while with that sales associate. They'll go through what your housing needs are. No more than 30 minutes, maybe 45 if you want to get into the financing and discuss that up front. We boil down what you want in a home, what your financial requirements are, what the bank will most likely require of you. Just like if you were to contact a mortgage broker, we do a mortgage analysis up front. We take a look at that customer's DTI. We take a look, at all 3 of the bureaus and recommend basically, one of the lenders.
We call it pre-qualified.
Yeah, it's a
Absolutely.
exactly. Mm-hmm. Now we're not underwriters. We're not licensed. So we're not going to say, oh, you need to go to this lender. But I know the DTIs at these 9 banks. I'm going to say, folks, I'm confident within about 100%, I can get you an approval. So then we go out and look at houses. And I'm going to walk out there and I'm going to show you what you've given me a description for.
Sure.
Some folks want to go see all houses. I got 25 houses, man. You want to jump in a house for 10 minutes?
Wow.
Every house, we'll be here all day. So what we do, part of the discussion is, let's see how many bedrooms you want. How many bathrooms you want.
You have 25 different options for a consumer to choose from?
Just at my office. We have 12 stores in the state of Texas, 11 in Texas, 1 in Oklahoma. But
so you can damn near call it a custom.
We can. One of our manufacturers, you can move walls. You can do a lot of really cool stuff.
That's
Again,
cool.
It ain't Grandpa's old single wide.
Sure.
So after that, we walk out onto the display center and we look at a couple models. And we typically show you the houses that we have that meet the description you give us. Once the consumer really loves the house, at that point, we're going to stand there and answer a bunch of questions. Mama's going to want to know about the fridge. Dad's going to want to know if we can put a safe in the closet. There's a couple things we got to go through, right? So we'll sit there in the house and chit-chat for a while and kind of go back and forth and answer some questions. Once this is the home and the customer's like, this is it, we love it, we're going to have the Christmas trees here, boom, this is here. At that point, what we do is we head back into the office, we give them a copy of the floor plan, answer any questions, and get them a price on the home. What we always do is give you a price in writing that you can hold us to. So I'll present that price to the customer. Once that price is agreed upon, you put down money. What that money does is it locks in your price and allows us to send off your financing to one of the lenders, usually a preferred lender.
So pause right there for a moment. That price that you guys provide to that consumer, that's not something that takes you a week long to go and get. I mean, you're able to actually give them a roundabout price.
Boom.
I love that.
Yeah. No, what typically, and every dealership is a little different.
Sure.
What I can do is speak on Titan, and what we do is
give
you a price.
I only have the best on this show.
Hey, man. What we do is we give you a price that includes the delivery of the house, the AC, all the appliances, the setup, the trim out. What we don't know is that second piece, which is the land improvements, base pad, concrete runners. Do you need a well?
Right.
I mean, I can't price you a house if you got a $40,000 well in the hill country.
Yeah.
Let me go take a look.
And you hit that limestone, man.
Yeah, dude, it's different. So there's a bunch of factors that we go over on day one. Then we fill out an application. It takes 15 minutes. What I do is I send that application to one lender. Once I get either a decision back, whether it's an approval or denial, call the customer, review that specific, ask their permission to go to another lender. Some dealerships will send your app to multiple lenders at once, which is a technique that's fine if the customer agrees to it.
Absolutely.
My thought is, hey, let's get one approval. If you like it, we're running. If you don't, let's get another one, and then we can kind of play the banks and find the best loan, right?
Sure.
My goal is to find the customer the best house, first and foremost, find them financing that fits their needs, and that a loan is, best for them.
Absolutely.
And I don't mind putting my banks up against each other and say, hey, guys,
It's the customer wins.
Customer wants a better rate. Who's going to win the business?
That's right.
Once that happens, we send out a site inspection.
Okay.
Site inspection on either their property they own or property that we found them within a week or so. The delivery company as well as the contractor will go meet the customer on site and talk about the position of the house, where it's going to go. They'll gather all of the information. They'll send those bids back to us. The delivery bid comes to us. We pay for that. And then comes a construction bid, which can be as large as, I got one today for $50,000 for a full turnkey project. And then I get them for, $2,500 for a base bet.
Gotcha.
I call the customer. We go over the bids. So you come back into the office. You go over your final bids. You sign all the colors on the house because mama's going to want to pick the counters, which we can do. You sign all the colors and options and stuff like that on the house. Now we got our bids. We got our house finalized. And we've got pretty much the last of the loan conditions. We send those loan conditions in. You get disclosures back as soon as all the lending conditions are cleared. You close. I've closed a chattel loan, which is a home only. So the customer typically owns the land. I've closed a chattel loan in 3 days.
Wow.
And then the factory, we release the order to the factory, which puts it in line into production. Right now, the houses are being built. Some of our faster factories that build single wides and things like that, they're turning them in 3 and 4 weeks. And then some of our more popular factories that are doing a larger breadth of our product, they're building in 6 to 8 weeks. So we can get a house out there pretty fast. 2 months. 2 months. Once the home hits the dirt, you can imagine, you can't move in tomorrow.
Right.
We got to level and set the home and anchor it to the property. Then you tie in the utilities, which can take 2 days. It can take 2 months.
Depending on the county. Yep,
Depends on the county. So there's a big
out of your control
timeline. Yeah, exactly. But we educate you on that, try to set the right expectation. And once that happens, we come in and do what's called a red carpet trim out, which is where we basically finish everything that may have been adjusted or moved in the delivery of the home. Because those houses go through
I'm sure
significant earthquake when they're headed down the Texas highways.
Y'all seen them out there.
Dude, when they get there, that sheetrock can be cracked. I mean, there can be wall panels that need to be reinstalled. That's totally normal. We get out there and finish the job. And then the customer meets that contractor on the property and walks through the house and signs off on the work performed. Boom. Then
it's
you
like
move
their
in.
blue
Then
tape.
you fund and move in.
Yep. And you fund these deals on the front end so that once the house is tied down to the property, the customer calls the bank and says, I want my payment on this date. The way we work is me and the sales guy, we don't get paid until that customer's moved in, the red carpet's completed. So our incentive to get you into your home and happy, it doesn't stop when the house hits the dirt. It stops when that customer says, hey, I'm done. When can I pick up my keys? And I say, come on by, man. We got them right here. We do a picture and stuff like that. It's really fun.
Cool.
So that's the timeline, so to speak, as fast as a week from I want that one on the lot and I'm paying cash to I'm doing a VA loan and it's going to take 9 months.
Sure. Gotcha. So, I mean, and I think that insight to that, pulling the curtain back, giving a very proper expectation of what can happen, how it typically happens. And like you said, if you want it tomorrow and you have the means, I'll get it to you in 3 days. How about that? That's not bad.
Yep.
And we're talking something that is brand spanking new.
Absolutely.
And that's something that these first time home buyers are really looking for, but unfortunately they've been priced out, like you said.
And they don't have green carpet anymore.
No, they don't. No, they don't. Hard floors. And the cool part is you can really tailor the house to how the customer wants it. The loan programs, for terms for all of you, mortgage people out there, we buy deep, man. These banks buy deep.
That's right.
We have programs for people in the 400s that have land that they own. There's an equity program where you can use your land as down payment, and you don't have to put $1 down. As long as the land hits a certain value, dude, you're a homeowner. You're a homeowner. So it's creating an opportunity for those that may not be able to to fit the bill on a traditional sight house.
Yeah, and you guys really adopt the concept that I learned many years ago from a gentleman named Merle Hodge, who was played football, NFL, and his concept was find a way, not an excuse. And it's just resonated because it's true.
Haggard.
No,
I'm like, oh wow,
no, we're not going there. That's awesome. So thank you for illustrating that. It was freaking fantastic. I learned something myself. But now our last topic, and you had it on here as your last passion, and I loved it. And it's basically living a driven lifestyle. Is that correct?
Yeah, purpose-driven lifestyle.
Purpose-driven lifestyle. And we talked about it. Matter of fact, we recorded an episode earlier today, and it went back to that concept of you've got to find your purpose, you've got to find your why before you can kind of dig deeper than you knew or didn't know your body could go, your mental capacity could go, all of those things. And I played football growing up, and that was when I kind of learned how much my body could take threshold wise, which in turn you look back and you go, well, it required the mental state in order to get the body there, but you didn't put the two together. So you start doing these kind of things.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about that concept, the purpose-driven lifestyle.
So it ties into the why, man. It really does. I'm an ADHD scatterbrained guy, so I'll get off topic here, but you just bring me back in whenever you need to, brother. So you got to have a purpose, right? The purpose for me is to help everybody around me. And the best way that I can help people around me is to help myself first.
Yes.
Right? You've got to be on point and sharp, cognitively sharp, if you're going to provide excellent service, great interaction, positivity to the people around you. So what's your purpose, right? How do you develop that? I've got a couple tricks that I've picked up over my years that I like to share with people that help me out a tremendous amount. First, you got your 4 F's, man.
Okay.
Faith, family, fitness, and finance.
I love that.
Whatever your faith is, are you right with it? Are you spending enough time and giving it the devotion daily that you need to feel whole there? If you're not, check that box, man. Find the time in the day. It's not hard. Just commit the time in the day. Be disciplined and do it to figure out where your faith is, right? Your family, whether that's your fellowship or your friends or your church or your wife or your kids or your parents. Is your family getting enough time with you to fill your cup, right? Family's huge in my world. And with, like I said earlier, man, without my wife, I wouldn't be anywhere. And that leads into my siblings and my parents and my wife's family, everybody. So my family's a big thing. Fitness, mental fitness. Is your mind right? Is your spiritual fitness right? Is your physical fitness right? I can't tell you guys enough. And you all know this. It's 2023, man. Your physical fitness is extremely important. Preventative medicine is the way to live. So if you're not on some type of a walking regimen or food regimen or something, and you're complaining about either your performance at work or your spouse or something, hey man, get in the gym.
Yeah.
Do something outside. Go get in the sun. Do something that's going to add to your physical fitness. So faith, family, fitness, and finance. Finance. If your money's not right, I guarantee you, some of these other things are going to be taxed. Right. Oh, man, I can't eat healthy because I don't have the money. Okay, well, there you go. Oh, man, I can't do anything with my family because I don't have the money. Oh, man, my mom needs help, but I can't do it because I don't have the money. So you got to keep your 4 F's in check and be disciplined about that. So that's something that really will help you lead a passion-driven life, and it'll help you feel full. Speaking of feeling full, this is a great concept. I call it my 9 squares. Okay. This is unique. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody else talk on this. I learned it from a friend of mine back in New Zealand. We were riding bikes across the country from Everett, Washington to Gloucester, Massachusetts in 2012. It's 4,200 miles. My good buddy Matthew said to me, he said, yeah, mate, I got to keep the 9 squares, man. We're just riding bikes. I have no idea what this guy's talking about. He's like, oh, yeah, let me teach you, mate. Your 9 squares, brother. And I had just gone through something hard in my life. I kind of ended a relationship and was really gripping the handlebars tight and, I thought my life was over. I'm 24, young guy, not bad looking. Well, at least I think so. And I'm single and I think the world's ending. I'm meeting all these people who are like, oh, that's funny. I just lost my wife to cancer. And I'm like, I guess being dumped isn't that bad. Right. So it's all perspective, right? This guy puts it in perspective for me because you got to have 9 squares. Go ahead and fill your 9 squares. What are the 9 things in life that you spend time with that allow you to feel whole. Because if you don't have 9 and one of those squares drops off, you're going to feel a pretty big void in your life, mate. And I thought, geez. So he goes, go ahead, tell me what your 9 are. And never hearing this before, it's very difficult to do. Okay, so it may be your children, your job, music, physical fitness. I'm at 3, I'm at 4, and I'm getting lost, right? It could be your staff at work, right? Those people. It could be your parents. It could be the outdoor lifestyle. It could be, you're starting a business.
So these are not necessarily tangible things.
You got 9 squares.
I like it.
If something goes out, your business fails. Man, you got 8 other squares that will keep you up.
Yeah.
And keep you positive and give you a passion kind of driven life, right? You got all these other things. But imagine if you just had 3, right?
Oh, yeah.
You
There's
just
a whole
lost
lot.
33%
Yeah.
of what you're passionate about in life. Boy, that's a big deficit in your mental capacity and health, physical capacity and health, spiritual capacity and health. So try to find a great exercise. Write it on a piece of paper and fill in 9 squares, simple things that you're passionate about. Really dig. You're going to get to about 4 or 5 and you're going to go, huh,
Yeah.
well, these 2 are the same. Uh-oh. Okay, well, gosh, what do I love? What really drives me? What gets me going? What feeds me? What gives me energy? What doesn't drain the energy out of my body?
Energy giving, not sucking.
There's
Absolutely.
2 things you got to pay attention to. Is this adding gas to my tank, or am I coming home at the end of the day spent because I'm spending time on something that really doesn't fill me up?
It's sucking the energy out of you.
Fill your life with 9 squares. And guitar, man, I love guitar for a long time. I gave it up. Well, when I got back into it, all of a sudden, I had that one thing every day that's really, man, it feels good.
Yeah.
So that's a really cool deal that everybody should get in touch with, because everybody gets off of it and you get overwhelmed, whether it's work or whether you're growing your family. Man, let's say you just get married. Your life is completely about your spouse, which is fine. Right. But keep those 9 squares in check. Maybe you're kicking butt at work. Well, guess what's getting taxed? Your home life, your fitness, your health, all this stuff. So you got to keep that in check. But, having a passion-driven life is discipline. Keeping God first is a big thing for me. You got to remember that we're just so dang fortunate, man. We really are. If you're in this country, if you're in this room, if you're in this state, if you're in that home, if you got a roof over your head, if you're making $35,000 a year, you're living in the top 1% of the world.
It's nuts, but it is true.
Hey, life's really good.
Right.
So stop scrolling through other people's lives and focus on you so that you can be the best self for all these people around you. That's a little bit of what a passion-driven life means to me.
And boy, am I glad I asked that question.
It's a good.
I think that
thing,
I think that in essence is, if you got anything out of this episode, that right there, you can absolutely take to the bank in cash. That practice that you're talking about is what gets us to remind ourselves of what we actually do have, what we do need to be grateful for, which then turns into something bigger and allows you to go, you know what? I'm not about to give up the rest of the $999 because somebody stole my buck.
Hey, you know what? That guy probably needed it more than me.
That's a great way to look at it.
And it's going to take me a lot less time to go get it back.
God, dog. Peter, I want to thank you truly, because this was, and I'm going to go as far as to say it, one of the best episodes we've had in quite some time.
Oh, gosh.
And I've got some great
that,
people
man.
on here. Mind you, it's just one of those things that when you meet somebody, you hear the words, but sometimes you feel it too.
Yeah. Well,
and that's where we are with this.
You guys are doing great things, man. I think mortgage is awesome. I think this Review My Mortgage is going to be a bit of a game changer for people to become educated in the finance world and really get their abilities up to buy a house. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate y'all inviting me to this show and giving me the platform to kind of speak and ramble a little bit. What a cool group of guys out here, man. I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Matt, you got anything else you want to end with? Good to go?
I don't know. I'm just thinking about that concept of the 9 squares. I'm like, damn, that was
I
heavy.
looked over at Matt while
like,
you were going.
whoa.
I'm like, he is soaking this up. This is awesome.
Like, whoa, that's intense.
Matt, I've been mentoring for quite some time now, and I'm telling you, he's just the guy that's the next better than me. Truly. Absolutely. Well, guys, there's not much else to say on this. Like I said, I mean, we've talked about consistency like we do in most other episodes. We've talked about your disciplines. We've talked about the things that you are in need to be grateful for that, gosh, you got to constantly remind yourself of that or you'll forget in times. And oh, by the way, we talked about manufactured housing and how affordable it is and how much that market is actually growing and how you listening right now, this may be the solution. So if that is the case, where can folks get a hold of you one more time?
You can check us out at TitanFactoryDirect.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. It's Peterman Hartwig. You guys are, feel free to reach out to Titan Factory Direct anytime. We're all over the state of Texas. Let us know where you heard about us too, because I'd be happy to let Mark know what we're doing. And this guy does some of the best mortgage stuff, at least in San Antonio, that I know of. And I've only known the guy for about a week, but it sounds like he's doing great business down here. So I think we can help you guys out. And again, man, I really appreciate coming on your show.
Looking forward to it. Guys, we will catch you on the next one. Holy